Right now at 10, Wisconsin's April 1st election is fast approaching. We'll look at the millions being spent on this race. Plus, the Green Bay prepares for the NFL draft, how the Packers are looking after the first wave of free agency signings, and building homes for a good cause, the local business partnering with St. Jude Hospital to help treat children with cancer. That's all coming up on News 3 now at 10. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Sarah Carlson. Eric Franke is off tonight. Well, it's going to be a quiet night, but some showers could soon appear in the forecast. Chief Meteorologist Alex Harrington has more on when we can get some of that much-needed rain.
Yes, a little bit of shower activity as we go on into Tuesday, but big-time shower chances as we go into Friday, going on into Saturday, where you see these bars going all the way up into the widespread to near washout category by the time we get to the end of the week. But we have a little shower chance as we go into Tuesday for parts of southern Wisconsin as well. And we need those drops, as you were saying there, Sarah. We have our moderate drought conditions widespread across all of southern Wisconsin. Folks often ask us this question: when will we get an update? This isn't updated every day. We get an update from the drought monitor approximately every Thursday. So we'll see how our rain that we had last week and the little bit of snow we had last week, and then this week's Sunday's rain may not show up in the drought monitor later in the week, but nonetheless, we will have an update a little bit later in the week. Overnight temperatures tonight, upper 20s to right around 30. Clouds will be on the increase out ahead of that shower chance. Look towards La Crosse, Prairie du Chien, and Platteville. You have the best chance of sneaking a shower as a tiny little weather system kind of ripples by southern Wisconsin during Tuesday afternoon, perhaps lasting into Tuesday evening. And speaking of that soggy Sunday that we had across southern Wisconsin, some amounts were quite plentiful. This is a rainfall estimate, anywhere from 4/10 of an inch in southwest Wisconsin. Some isolated areas approaching 2 inches up towards Sun Prairie and over towards Beaver Dam. How much rain could we expect out of the weather system coming into the area towards the end of the week? It could be an appreciable amount. We're going to talk about that weather system in addition to that little chance of rain Tuesday in a few minutes.
Sounds good. Thanks, Alex. Well, Madison Fire Department says a power adapter may be to blame for a basement fire on the city's southwest side. Fire crews were called to a home on Laureen Drive Friday night. The caller reported a small fire behind their dryer. The firefighters quickly put out the fire and found the dryer's power cord plugged into a 3-prong to 4-prong adapter. Madison Fire says a definitive source could not be confirmed, but crews believe the problem probably originated with that adapter. Well, this spring, Wisconsin is experiencing a drought, as you heard, creating an elevated fire danger. Currently, the danger for fires is low due to the rain over this past weekend, but just last week, that threat was pretty high. Wisconsin's DNR says fires are most likely to occur this time of year due to dead and dry vegetation, with the #1 cause of wildfires being burning debris.
So the first thing they can do is either not burn in the spring and always look for other times, chip wood piles or take their trash or somewhere else or just compost. Otherwise, if they do need to burn, they should get a permit issued by the DNR.
Typically, the DNR's burn permits are for after 6 p.m. when the winds are lower and the humidity is increasing. Officials say they can suspend or cancel permits also based on certain weather factors. Well, we're now a little more than a week out from this spring election. At the top of the ballot, as you know, the race that will decide the balance of power on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Both candidates are campaigning in Rock County tonight. More than $90 million has been spent in this race alone, according to WISCPolitics.com. And one of the closing arguments in the race for the Susan Crawford campaign: don't be outspent.
He's willing to have the Supreme Court be bought off by the richest man in the world, Elon Musk.
We're both getting money. We're both getting support from outside groups. And for her to make as much of a campaign as she has about the Musk money I think it is hypocritical.
On Friday, Brad Schimmel was endorsed by President Trump in the race. He said that would not influence his rulings. This election is held on April 1st. By mid-July, the United States may not be able to pay its bills on time unless Congress acts on the debt ceiling. That's according to a projection released today by the Bipartisan Policy Center. The U.S. hit its roughly $36 trillion debt limit back on January 21st. This forced the Treasury Department to use accounting maneuvers and the cash it has on hand to pay the government's bills. This is to avoid a first ever default. So the Treasury Department says it will extend those measures through June 27th to give Congress time to address the debt ceiling. Well, the cost of college has risen dramatically in the last 3 decades, as we know. According to Bankrate, the average in-state tuition and room and board at a public 4-year college this academic was yearly $25,000 a year. Out-of-state students paid an average of $44,000. A private 4-year college costs close to $59,000 a year.
I think people just aren't feeling like maybe the ROI of college degrees is the same as it was a few decades ago.
There are things students can do to lower the costs, including attending a community college and then transferring over to a 4-year or applying for work-study jobs. Well, tonight fans are celebrating the Badger women's hockey team's win over the weekend. The team arrived back from Minnesota at the LeBron Arena. We spoke to fans who say this is an exciting win for the Badgers. The thrill of going into overtime and the game-winning shot from number 27 junior Kirsten Sims had all those Badgers in Minnesota out of their seats. And we'll have more on tonight's celebrations later on in sports. Well, the main wave of NFL free agency has passed, and the Green Bay Packers made some signings of their own for next season. But with this first rush gone, we'll have seen some of the biggest contracts come and go. So we spoke with News 3 Packers reporter Jason Wilde on how the green and gold are looking.
They've got some offensive line challenges that they're dealing with, both in terms of losing their starting center and some guys that are going to be free agents after this year. And they need more help at the corner position. They probably still need more help. So Aaron Banks, the guard, fills that spot. He will walk in and be the starting left guard, and they'll move Elton Jenkins to center. And Nate Hobbs, they're going to use him in a variety of ways. They may play him outside. They may play him inside. But they paid him $16 million in guaranteed money, so they clearly expect him to be on the field a lot.
Now all eyes turn to the NFL draft, which is exactly a month away in Green Bay. You can find the full Packers breakdown with Jason on our website, channel3000.com. And now to a creative way of giving back to children dealing with cancer. We're talking about building a house and giving all of the proceeds to St. Jude Research Hospital. News 3 is partnering with Victory Homes to become the first in the state to take part in what's called the St. Jude Dream Home Showplace. Victory broke ground last December and expects to be finished with this house in Wanakee sometime in June.
A lot of credit back to our trade partners and our suppliers that are donating 100% labor and materials for a good cause. That is incredible. We were blown away by the fact that they were willing to do so without even asking. It was just a 100% all on board.
The house will be roughly 4,200 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, a story and a half. And it's custom built as well to fit into the Kilkenny West subdivision in Wanakee. This house could end up selling for more than $500,000, all again for St. Jude Children's Hospital, where patients are treated at no cost. Well, it is time to vote for a local veteran whom you think is deserving of the Spirit of Service Award. Our partners at Vortex narrowed the more than 200 nominations down to these final 5 names. Voting is now open on channel3000.com through March 30th. You can look for their stories on News 3 Now and our mobile app. The winner will be announced April 2nd. That person takes home $5,000 presented by Vortex. And after 43 years of service, Morgan Murphy Media President and Chief Executive Officer Elizabeth Murphy Burns is retiring from her position. Burns took over the family-run company with her brother John Murphy in 1982. She will be elevated to chair of the company's board of directors. Current Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer Brian Burns will take over as the next president and CEO, ensuring Morgan Murphy Media will be led by a member of the family, as it has been since 1890. Well, wildfires caused thousands to evacuate on the East Coast and demanding an investigation. How a White House messaging chain was breached over the weekend. That's next.
You're watching News 3 Now at 10.
Welcome back. A federal appeals judge says that Nazis detained in the U.S. were treated better than Venezuelan migrants deported last week. And the White House admits to a significant security breach. Erica Brown has more from Washington.
Highly sensitive military plans about this U.S. offensive on Houthi rebels in Yemen were shared in an encrypted but unsecured group chat ahead of the attack. On the text chain, 18 people, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, who accidentally invited journalist Jeffrey Goldberg to the chat. The editor-in-chief for The Atlantic published a story about the security breach Monday.
I found it completely improbable that the top national security leadership of the United States would be discussing on a commercial messaging app the possible imminent attack on another country, and that they would mistakenly, I assume mistakenly, invite the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine into their discussion.
A National Security Council spokesman says the text chain on the messaging app Signal appears to be authentic. The app is not approved for sharing classified information. President Trump weighed in hours after the report.
I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
Late Monday, Secretary Hegseth pushed back on the report, calling Goldberg, quote, deceitful.
Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Top Democrats are demanding an investigation.
It's bad enough that a private citizen was added to this chain, but it's far worse that sensitive military information was exchanged on an unauthorized application.
The Trump administration was also back in court Monday appealing a federal judge's order that temporarily blocked the controversial deportation of Venezuelan migrants to El Salvador. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg ruled that the Venezuelan migrants were entitled to due process. During an appeals hearing, one judge argued Nazis detained in the U.S. during World War II received better legal treatment than the migrants deported to El Salvador. The appeals panel has not yet issued a ruling. Erica Brown, CBS News, the White House.
In other news, wildfires continue to rage in the Carolinas. More than 6,000 acres have burned as of Sunday night. Thousands have been ordered to evacuate. Hundreds of personnel, including some from other parts of the country, are working now to contain these wildfires. This weekend's weather added to the challenge.
High elevated winds, higher temperatures, lower relative humidity. So we are seeing all those conditions that's contributing to higher and more intense fire spread.
We're sad that it happens, but we're all glad to be able to just join in together and work as one team.
This morning, a cold front brought some rainfall and brief relief for firefighters in the Carolinas. The next round of rainfall is not expected until this weekend. A 3D printer helped save the life of a New Jersey man whose skull was crumbling. This is fascinating. After 3 brain surgeries, Greg Morrison received not so great news. Part of his skull was actually caving in, so his neurosurgeon got to work, and the team was able to construct a 3D model of Morrison's skull and then a replacement piece for the decaying fragment, thanks to a 3D printer.
We can take a CAT scan, replicates Greg's anatomy in 3D. Take that, identify the defect of what's missing, print out a perfect puzzle piece.
Wow. Okay. After his final surgery in November, Morrison has since fully recovered, back at work, and by his side, George, the original replica of his skull. I think they showed that earlier. Well, there's a couple chances for rain over the coming days. We'll stay seasonably cool as well. We have Alex Harrington with the latest. Kind of hard to transition from the skull to the weather.
It is. That was fascinating. That's amazing what medicine and science can do in a 3D printer here. Well, I'll try to do my due diligence here and do something special here with the weather forecast. First, pointing out, as you were saying there, Sarah, seasonable temperatures, meaning that this is what we would expect for this time of year. Tuesday going on to Wednesday, temperatures 40s getting up to near 50, but then we go above normal as the weather system moves into the Midwest. And this will be a pretty big weather maker for much of the Midwest. More on that in just a moment. We dip below normal, so first to let you know, early next week's going to start off cool, and then we work our way back up to temperatures above normal. And you were mentioning rain chances. A little bit of a chance on Tuesday. We're going to track a couple showers here using Future Track in just a moment to see which parts of southern Wisconsin will possibly get wet on Tuesday. We all get wet by the time we get to Saturday. That's going to be a soaking rain for southern Wisconsin. Clouds will be back on the increase tonight. As we go further into Tuesday, we may break briefly back into some sunshine before the clouds fill back in a couple showers eye up areas south and west of, let's say, Camp Douglas to Dells to Madison. So best chances Mineral Point, Platteville, Darlington, Monroe, a quick shower or two late Tuesday afternoon going on into Tuesday evening. And boy, oh boy, could we use the rain. Earlier we were talking about the abnormally dry conditions and moderate drought conditions that are widespread across all of southern Wisconsin. We will get an update on the drought monitor later this week to see if recent precipitation has hopefully put at least a little bit of a dent in that drought. But we do have good rain chances moving into the area. This is a first glimpse of this weather system on Saturday, and a warm front's going to set up across southern Wisconsin. This warm front's going to be the dividing line between warmer air that's to the south and colder air that's to the north. We're going to be keeping a close tab on that warm front too, because if it gets a little bit further to the north, we could be looking at some severe weather for parts of southern Wisconsin on Saturday going into Saturday evening. But there is a phenomenon that I'm going to talk about here in just a moment that may push that warm front to the south. Nonetheless, the main thing to get takeaway out of that weather system is that we're going to have a decent amount of water that's going to ring out with that weather system, maybe a little wet snow on the tail end, which is not a shocker for the end of March going into early April. Widespread half, 3/4, maybe an inch to an inch and a half of water equivalent to put into the soils that are slowly thawing across southern Wisconsin. But that warm front placement is key as to whether or not we get thunderstorms or possibly severe thunderstorms in southern Wisconsin and the warm temperatures. We don't need the severe weather. We had a lifetime of severe weather last year. But if Lake Michigan's cool air blows into southern Wisconsin as we go into Friday into Saturday, that could push that warm front further south, taking the severe weather risk to the south and southern Wisconsin. Upper 20s, lower 30s tonight, up near 50 as we go into Tuesday. And then here are those temperatures once again for the end of the week, approaching near 60 degrees by Friday.
And coming up in sports, the celebration continues, while the Badgers say it's still hard to believe that they're national champs. That's next on News 3 Now. In the words of the voice of Wisconsin women's hockey, Paul Brown, 8 is great. And that celebration hasn't stopped since Kirsten Sims put home the game winner to beat Ohio State in overtime. Well, tonight the Badgers brought the celebration to Laban and to try to describe what actually happened on Sunday afternoon. And we found out 2 things. Lacey Eden polar plunged to celebrate another national championship, and capping off the year with another title is still hard to put into words.
All in the huddle together, like everyone's screaming, like, I cannot believe we did it. And I think probably like a minute later, it like fully hit me, I start bawling tears, just like both like so happy that we did, and also like, that's it in the Badgers jersey. It's definitely a little bit bittersweet.
I mean, I still am in disbelief. Like, I'm like, did that really happen? Like, that's crazy. But we all were just in shock, like hugging each other, jumping in each other's arms. Like, tears were going down cheeks, and it was just like the best, most joyous moment.
Wisconsin men's basketball season ended abruptly on Saturday night in Denver, and in the age of NIL and the transfer portal, this year's senior class of Badgers may be the last of a dying breed. This is a group of guys that waited their turn and then went out and proved the doubters wrong, and they say they left the program in a better place than they found it.
That's the main goal when I came here, was just leave this place in the better than I found it, and I'm just so proud of them. It took a team effort, and all of us seniors, especially the guys that have been here for a while, Steve, Klez, me, Killa, all we wanted to do was just make this place the best we could, and I think we did a pretty good job, and we got some great guys in this locker room that I know will continue to build it in the way we want.
But the NCAA tourney continues for Taylor Stremblow and Tegan Mullaney. The pair of freshmen from the Madison area and their Iowa Hawkeyes played Oklahoma with a trip to the Sweet 16 on the line, but they fell short. Stremblow had 3 points and 4 assists, but the Sooners get the win 96-62. And in case you missed it, Platteville's Logan Pearson took home some big-time honors over the weekend. The Pioneers' all-time leading scorer was named the National Player of the Year and a first-team All-American by D3Hoops.com. He also earned first-team All-American honors from the NABC. That's it for sports. We'll be right back.
It was nice to see the sun today, and
Yes.
a pretty decent week coming ahead.
Yeah, I would say overall the next couple days pretty decent. At the end of the week, we got the mild temperatures, but we will have rain that will go along with that too. Typical temperatures for March tonight, upper 20s to the lower 30s. We'll keep an eye out towards Prairie du Chien, Platteville, maybe over towards Darlington for an isolated shower later Tuesday. Otherwise, partly cloudy skies, temperatures in the upper 40s to right around 50. That's normal for this time of year. And then all attention turns towards the potential for some heavy rain as we head towards the end of the week. We need the rain, and with that, temperatures climbing up into perhaps the 60s on Friday or around 60 on Saturday. We'll be keeping an eye on a warm front, and how far north it gets will determine how warm those temperatures get Friday and Saturday.
Looks like spring.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Alex. And thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Have a great night.